The Zulu kingdom was a land of warriors, where strength ruled above all else. Its king, Obadil, was a formidable ruler, feared and respected throughout the region. His eldest daughter, Princess Tari, was destined to inherit the throne. But fate had other plans. Tari was not like the other princesses, who spent their days adorned in fine silks, discussing court gossip. She was a warrior, fierce and unyielding, her spirit burning like the midday sun. She trained with the soldiers, wielding her spear with the precision of a seasoned fighter. But it was her heart that led her astray. For Tari had fallen in love with a man she should not have. Gamba was no noble. He was a rebel, the leader of the mountain warriors who resisted the rule of the Zulu throne. To the kingdom, he was a criminal, an enemy of the crown. But to Tari, he was freedom, passion, and fire. Under the cover of night, they met in secret, away from the prying eyes of the palace guards. They spoke of dreams, of a kingdom where justice prevailed, where the throne was not decided by bloodline alone, but by merit and the will of the people. "You will be queen one day," Gamba whispered, his dark eyes locked onto hers. "But will you rule as your father does, or will you fight for something greater?" Tari hesitated. She wanted to believe that she could change the kingdom, that she could bring about a new era. But deep down, she knew the truth: her father would never allow it. Unknown to them, a shadow lurked in the distance. Watching. Listening. Betrayal was already in motion. Nora had always been Tari's closest friend. They had grown up together, shared secrets, and trained side by side. Tari trusted her more than anyone else. But trust could be a dangerous thing. Nora's father, Ifani, was King Obadil's most trusted advisor. A cunning man, he had spent years ensuring that his family remained in power. He had no love for Tari's ideals. A queen who sympathized with rebels was a threat. He whispered poison into the king's ear. "You must put an end to this, my king," Ifani urged. "She risks everything for that man. If left unchecked, she may betray you for him." The king's face hardened. "I will not have my own daughter defy me. What do you suggest? We allow her to fall deeper into her foolish love. And when the time is right, we strike." Nora played her part well. She continued to encourage Tari's love for Gamba, even arranging their secret meetings. She smiled as Tari spoke of their dreams, of a future where the kingdom would change. But behind that smile lay something dark. It was she who led the guards to Tari and Gamba's meeting place. It was she who watched as they dragged Gamba away in chains, his cries of defiance echoing into the night. And when Tari was brought before her father, accused of treason, it was Nora who stood by the king's side, silent and unmoving. Tari stood before the great council, her hands bound in iron. The throne room was filled with nobles, warriors, and elders, her people. But today, they did not look at her as their princess. They looked at her as a traitor. Her father's voice was cold as steel. "You have betrayed your kingdom, Tari. You have conspired with our enemies. What do you have to say for yourself?" Tari lifted her chin, defiance burning in her eyes. "I love Gamba. He is not our enemy. The real enemy is the greed and corruption that blinds this court. We could have built a better kingdom together." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The king's face darkened with rage. "You are no daughter of mine," he spat. "From this day forward, you are exiled. You will never set foot in this kingdom again." Tari's heart shattered. She looked to her brother, Prince Amari, hoping for some sign of support. But he turned away. And then her gaze met Nora's. There was no sorrow. No regret. Only cold satisfaction. As the guards dragged her away, Tari vowed that this would not be the end. With Tari gone, the kingdom moved forward. The people whispered of her disgrace, but life continued. And then came the final betrayal. Prince Amari, and now the heir to the throne, was to be married. The chosen bride, Nora. The court celebrated the union, praising Nora's loyalty and wisdom. They spoke of how she had saved the kingdom from Tari's dangerous ideals. Ifani stood tall beside the king, his daughter now bound to the royal bloodline. On the day of the wedding, as drums echoed through the kingdom, a lone rider watched from the shadows beyond the city walls. Tari had returned, but not to celebrate. Tari had spent years wandering distant lands. She had seen empires rise and fall, had fought alongside warriors in foreign battles. She had built alliances with those who had also been cast out, betrayed, forgotten. Now, she was no longer just a fallen princess. She was a leader. A commander of an army unlike any the Zulu kingdom had ever seen. And she was coming home. Under the cover of night, Tari's forces stormed the borders. They moved like ghosts, striking swiftly, overwhelming the guards. Townspeople whispered her name as fires burned in the distance. The exiled princess had returned for her throne. In the palace, panic spread. King Obadil, now old and weary, knew that his daughter would not be stopped. He turned to Ifani for counsel, but the man who had once held so much power now trembled in fear. Nora clutched Amari's hand, her face pale. "She won't stop until we are dead." And she was right. The final battle took place at the gates of the palace. Tari, clad in warrior's armor, faced her brother. "Step aside, Amari," she said. "This throne was meant to be mine." "You abandoned the kingdom," he shot back. "You sided with a rebel." "And you sided with a snake," she said, her eyes flicking to Nora. Nora stepped forward. "You were never fit to rule, Tari. The people love me." Tari laughed, a sound cold and sharp. "They love a lie. And I am here to show them the truth." The battle was swift. Tari's warriors outmatched the royal guards. One by one, the court's supporters fell. Amari surrendered. But Nora tried to run. Tari caught her at the palace doors. "Did you think I would forget?" she whispered. Nora begged for mercy, but Tari had none left to give. The Kingdom of Zulu welcomed its true ruler home. Tari did not seek blind vengeance, as she sought justice. Amari was exiled, spared only because he was her brother. The people hailed their warrior queen. Tari stood before them, her heart both heavy and light. She had lost much, but she had gained even more. This was not just her victory, it was the victory of every soul who had ever been oppressed, every voice that had been silenced. She had returned. And this time she would rule.